Greetings, Sentinels fans! I bet you've been waiting for this one. Time to go into one of the most poorly executed villains in the game. Let's talk about Spite. I will preface this by saying that I really wanted this guy to be fun. The concept is great. Spite is essentially a slasher movie villain that somehow found his way into a superhero universe. He is cruel, sadistic, and terrifying. His drug-related powers are almost secondary to his slasher style. He is one of the few villains that got the better of the Wraith in a skill set that she is good at, and he brings a huge layer of menace to Rook City. Looking at his deck, you see the concept they were going for. Most of his deck is made up of civilians, people that Spite is targeting. The game wants you to fight him and also protect the civilians at the same time. Considering the point of the game is a team of heroes fighting crossover-worthy threats, this is remarkably grounded for these villains. He is one of the most mundane villains in the game, and that goes a long way towards making him scary. He's so cool and scary that I even have a new relationship with the word Spite. But I've been stalling enough. Let's get to the deck. First, Spite's character card. Whenever he deals damage, he heals himself the same amount of damage he dealt. That right there should set the tone. Dealing him damage is a long, arduous process of trying to outrun his damage ability. And at the start of the game, this seems doable. His character card doesn't do much damage. However, that changes when he ramps up. Spite has 5 cards with the drug keyword. These are boosts that he gets that are permanent and indestructible. So unlike most villains where you can weaken them by destroying ongoing cards and minions, once he's powered up, he stays that way. And these cards really change how the game is played. The simplest of these is the one that reduces the first damage dealt to him by a fair amount, making it harder to get through to his hit points at all, especially if your hero doesn't do a lot of instances of damage. Next is the one that deals a point of area damage to all heroes, but that means it also accelerates his healing. Third is the one that deals damage to a hero every time they use a power. This, of course, forces you to figure out if the power is even worth using. Then, to screw up your long-term planning, it discards the next 4 cards of that hero's deck. Were you relying on drawing that one card? Well, too bad, it's in the discard now. Fourth is the one that boosts Spite's attack power, which is fair enough, but it also hurts your setup by forcing players to put cards from the field back into their hand. Now you can set up faster than he breaks you down, but then you lose opportunities for using one-shots and it's just annoying. And the 5th drug is the one that destroys environment cards and damages the heroes based off that. This one essentially makes the environment a non-factor. The environment only gets the actions of that one turn before it is cleared out. Do note that 4 of the 5 drugs causes Spite to deal more damage per turn, which also increases his healing. Just having a few of them out can make it almost impossible to make damage on him stick. What's more, Spite gets a lot of ways to speed up his acquisition of drugs. Extra card plays from a civilian, lab raid, and his ability to just wait things out means that he will probably get all the drugs he needs at some point. Now, when he gets all 5 drugs out, he flips to his yucky side. On this side, he no longer heals, so now it can be practical to fight him. However, another issue comes up. On this side, Spite also stops playing cards. This essentially makes Spite predictable. There are no more curveballs, you can simply math out the results at this point. But now it's time to talk about the civilians. This is a concept that I like, but I don't think it was handled well. There are 9 victims in Spite's deck, and the idea is that the heroes have to inconvenience themselves to save them and put them under the safe house card. When Spite flips to his backside, he deals himself 5 damage for every victim that you saved, giving a mechanical reason for players to save him. There are some issues with this, however, when you take into account reward versus stakes, cost, and retribution. So your reward for saving a civilian is 5 damage to Spite that will happen later. So all the victims have the unspoken question: is 5 damage worth these effects? And I'm gonna say for the most part, probably not. Well, what are the stakes? What does Spite do upon killing an innocent human being? He heals. Yep, he just heals. You know, the thing he is doing already. It's not even a huge amount of healing either, it's 3 to 5 points. That's 1 hero turn's worth of damage. The only one that does something else is potential sidekick, which has the added effect of the heroes getting hurt by Spite if he gets killed. The sidekick can be a problem, but the others? There isn't really much penalty for failing to save them. Well, let's look at the cost for saving them. Innocent bystander. Discard a few cards. That's fine. Lost child. Have Spite deal damage to a hero, so you prevent his healing with an action that heals him. That's kinda counterproductive. Good Samaritan. Have Spite play a card to save him. This one also has issues, since this guarantees that either another victim gets played, a drug gets played, or a victim gets killed. If you're unlucky, that victim will end up being the Good Samaritan you were just trying to save, rendering your action pointless. Then we have the potential sidekick where you have benefits to keep him around, benefits to save him, but huge drawbacks if he dies. If you keep him around, the kid, his name is Tiago by the way, he's actually a big character in both the future timelines, will allow your heroes to draw cards. You can also discard a bunch of cards to save him. This is more of what I want to see from this style of deck. Having potential victims would encourage some thinking. You would have to gamble. Save them now for a small benefit, or keep them around for a large benefit, with a large drawback if your gamble fails. But this is the only card in Spite's deck that is like that. Now so far this gets us some benefits if we save them, but not too heavy drawbacks if we don't. But now we have a card that actively discourages saving the victims. Forced Entry is Spite's worst card in this regard. It causes him to take all the victims out of the safe house and murders one of them. So all that work you put into saving the victims, hurt yourself to save the girl, allow Spite more card plays to save the charity guy, and spent cards to save children and the bystanders, and then this card is played and all that effort goes right down the drain. You have to start over if you want to save them again. This card punishes you for doing the heroic thing and pretty much encourages players to abandon the civilians until Spite is ready to flip, and only then save them. This is really unheroic, but that seems to be what the game wants you to do. This card ruins the victim mechanic, invalidating all effort put towards the secondary objective, and in turn, turns the 9 victim cards into junk plays. So this villain starts the game encouraging players to do nothing, eventually makes the environment a non-factor, makes the villain deck a non-factor, and introduces a secondary objective and then cruelly destroys your efforts towards achieving it. That is 4 huge strikes against this guy, 4 completely separate ways he can ruin your fun. Just having one of these is fine, but 4? Not to mention he is constantly harming your setup and discouraging power use, so thereby discouraging half the actions you can do in a turn. So that's 2 minor strikes as well. Now Spite is one of the villains that was revisited for a villain variant. Does it help? Somewhat. Variants can't easily fix problems that are inherent in the deck, but this does go a long ways towards fixing those problems. Spite, Agent of Gloom, is Jack Donovan after he was resurrected from the dead by Gloomweaver, before Gloomy fully possessed him to make the Skinwalker body. This time, the drug cards are placed on the field face down at the start of the game, and one flips at the start of each turn. Spite doesn't heal from dealing damage on either side, so you can fight him normally, though he still heals from killing victims. If there are more victims in the safe house than active drugs, then he flips a drug card back over, giving you some opportunity to weaken him. If you have saved enough victims, you flip Spite over to his broken vessel side. This side has you messing with the victims a lot. Spite deals more damage for each victim in the safe house, but also does area damage if a victim is killed. Heroes do get bonuses for moving victims around though. If victims are placed in the safe house, then a hero may draw a card. At the start of each hero turn, they may take a victim out of the safe house and put them into play to allow that hero to play a card. So the Agent of Gloom's front side messes with his drugs, and his flip side messes with the victims. This at least allows for more interesting play. You still have the problems originating from Mindfire and Forced Entry, and the issues from the other drugs, but this is a huge improvement, allowing you to choose how you want the battle to go. Either allow him to go all in on the drugs on his front side, or only allow him 1 or 2 before moving him to his rough flip side. So overall, Spite has a lot of excellent concepts, but very poor execution. He is designed in such a way to invalidate a lot of what makes Sentinels fun. He is brutal, but predictable. He removes so many elements of chance that is important to card games. He can make players do nothing and just wait for things to happen, something you don't want to force players to do. He even encourages players to play against theme, something that normally Sentinels is very good at, but falls flat here. And that is that. Spite makes me sad because I see a lot of potential in his theming, but his deck just wasn't made very well. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Take care, friends. What does Spite do upon healing an innocent human? Healing. That's not what it does. Which has the added effect of the heroes hurting themselves. I checked later. It is Spite dealing the damage. Read the damn script, Brian.